What's up, everybody? My name's AJ Gasporra, and I run CTC basketball. My first time playing, I got blessed. Coach Casper Ware Sr. was my coach. And at 8 years old, he had his sons, Casper, Irv. Lamar was playing older, above us. And then Shannon, his niece, was playing with us. So that was my first introduction to actually organized sports for basketball. And I was 8 years old, and I've known Casper in the Ware family since that time. Coach Casper calling us to go to the park down the street or to meet up somewhere, no questions asked. We're there. And that's just what started fueling us to really want to be good. And he took us all over the place. He took us to LA, he took us to Long Beach, he took us Carson, he took us all over to go play. And he just always wanted us around hoops, always around us in a gym, watching someone older, watching older games, older people play, stuff like that. I wanted to be around the best of the best. At Los Alamitos, my freshman year, we had Landry Fields, ended up playing in the NBA. He's a very good basketball player. Cameron Jones, his cousin, who's my age, who's playing overseas, and I think he's Northern Arizona's one of the top scorers of all time. Charles Hinkle, who's older than me, he's playing in Japan. Alex Mowry's playing in the Philippines. There were players at Los Alamitos. It was a very good basketball team, but I wanted to go to a school that was strictly about basketball, and that was my home school, Artesia. And so I grew up watching Artesia basketball. I grew up watching Capono, the O'Bannons, Ryan Reyes, Kenneth Warrior, that's who but I wanted to go there. And I watched them play when I was a freshman. I watched James as a freshman, and I watched that group play when I was a freshman against Lorenzo Mata at Long Beach City College in a showcase game. And I just remember watching, and I told my dad, I was like, I can play for them. I can play for Artesia. And we went to the school. We had a talk with Coach Perry at the time, who was the head coach. And he just told me, he's like, if you come here, you're going to work for it. You're going to earn it. You see what my team is about, and the JV team, the lower levels are just as good. So, you're going to have to prove it. So, I think just getting into that mindset of wanting to prove that I can play with the best, and share the court with them, that's when I started just taking everything just to another level. I actually transferred my sophomore year. We used to have practice at 5 a.m. before school at Los Alamitos for the JV team. So went there with my dad, told the coaches, I was like, I'm transferring, no hard feelings, none of this, blah, blah, blah. That day I enrolled at Artesia. The following day, we used to have an inter-squad scrimmage, a three-way scrimmage between Los Alamitos, Artesia, and Long Beach Wilson. So the next day I'm playing against my old teammates. I got up in the morning before school and I ran. I'd run a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, whatever my body could endure that day. Went to class. I shot during lunch. My computer teacher at Los Alamitos after my freshman year, he taught me how to shoot. So we would go in Los Alamitos gym during lunch, and it would be me, him, Landry, and Cameron, and he taught us how to shoot. I wanted to get to varsity as quickly as possible, and then I stayed after practice. I stayed by myself or I had my own little court, stayed off to the side, and I just worked. I worked on my offhand dribbling, worked on my shooting, and that was it. After I go home, do my homework, then I go to the park right across the street from my house. But we'd run the court from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. And they weren't always better basketball players, but they were grown men, and they didn't take no back talk from a kid. I had to learn how to defend myself. Bunch of things happened on that court. And you wouldn't think that it would happen because it's Cerritos, but some things happened, but that's where I learned how to compete. I wanted to stay on the court, and it was funny because our little group, we called ourselves a dynasty. Because we rarely lost, and we'd run the court for hours and hours and hours, and people would come from all over to try to beat us. So just the sense of trying to win and do whatever it takes to win, and work through everything that comes with trying to stay on that court for as long as possible. That all helped into my development, and the whole time I'm just playing. I just think I'm playing basketball. Junior year, I had my first interview after we won the state title. We went 33-1 or 35-1, I forgot. But we won CIF and state, and I got my first interview, and that was huge. And then senior year, it's probably too many to name. I mean, I was starting every game, and we had a magical team. And looking back at it, I don't even know if anybody else on the team knew what we had, and I don't think maybe any other player in that situation that's had a team like that really fully understands until you're older and you look back at it, because that was just a special team. James Harden was on that team. Malik Story, who was basically Stanley Johnson at the time, build, frame, athleticism, handle, but can shoot from the volleyball line. Renardo Sidney, who was the number one player in his class. Lorenzo McLeod, Junie Valencia, Martin Whitmore, Tremaine Johnson, all of them, all special guys that went on to play college basketball after, and that was just a great experience. Playing alongside him and the rest of the guys, it was tough at times, because Renardo was the number one player as a sophomore in his class. Malik Story was top 20 in his class as a junior, and James had just started to really gain national attention over the last, I guess it would have been in between his junior year, maybe like end of his sophomore summer, and now he's starting to really progress and get there. He's had good momentum over the last year and a half, and they all want theirs. They all want to get their numbers. They want to get their notoriety and everything, and it's just me, where I almost went back to the cul-de-sac days, where I'm playing with the older guys who are better, and I'm just trying to fit in, just trying to stay on the court again. Once again, I'm just trying to win. I know I'm not going to get very many shots, and I didn't get very many shots all the time, but the shots that I got, I made count. And I just realized there were other things I needed to do in order to get noticed, as far as for college to start recruiting me and stuff like that, and even just to stay on the court, and to prove that, once again, I can play with the best of the best. CIF championship. We played against Mater Dei, and we had already played against them once before, and we beat them in a championship game in a tournament. But Honda Center sold out, and once again, I remember during warm-ups, I didn't get a lot of shots to warm up. And, when you're a kid, you've only played in a big arena a few times, so the adjustment, the depth perception, the lighting, you kind of gotta, the way the ball bounces off the floor even, you kind of gotta get as many reps as quickly as possible to try to get the best feel for it. But I just knew, having played in those games, how the game would probably flow for me right away, whereas everybody else would try to get into a flow as far as offensively scoring right away, and I always had to kind of find a way to get into a flow of the game differently, whether it was talking on defense, even getting some of my teammates open for screens, or making a good pass to them. I had to get in a rhythm differently as opposed to some of my teammates did. But the scouting report, I guess, was to let me shoot, and my first 2 threes went in. So I saw 2 quick ones at the beginning of the game, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm in a rhythm. I know where the rim's at, I'm good. And I just had a really great game that day. Hit all my free throws, nice rebounds. It was just a really good game for me. So I think right there, where, as far as the mindset, where I knew where the team would need me, or I was just able to adapt to the situation a little bit quicker, because I guess I'd been prepared for it all this time. I never really tried to force my situation as far as scoring. I knew that I could score. That was the thing. I was a very good shooter, and I knew I could dribble the ball well enough to get to the basket. You know, so the scoring part never really was a big factor of me as far as trying to find my shots all the time. The biggest thing that I think I worried about was trying to touch the ball as much as possible just to get into a flow of the game. So I was really good at setting screens. I needed to. So like I'd set good screens and like eventually like they're gonna double team off the screen. So then when I pop for the ball, like the ball's in my hands. Now I can survey for a second. I have a shot if I'm wide open. I pump fake dribble, drive if I have it. You know, guy comes and helps. I throw the lob or I throw for the kick out. You know, I was really good at stuff like that to where as long as I know I'm contributing and everything looks smooth as far as the way I'm doing it, I'm in the flow of the game. Then the points would come later. That's the one thing that I think helped me, whereas I understood how great of scorers my teammates were. So what did they really need? What did the team need at that point? They needed defense. They needed extra rebounding. They needed extra possessions. So I'm going down, getting offensive rebounds, kicking them back out to people, right? So all the while I'm touching the ball, but at the same time, now the other team is so focused on stopping James, stopping Malik, stopping Renardo. So now they're not even worried about me. So I may have 2 points in the first half. Second half comes around, they're so worried about stopping those three. Now I'm wide open. So now my shots are real easy. And since I've been able to touch the ball throughout the first half and I've been able to stay in that rhythm of the game, second half, you know, the shots would just come down, knock down like real easy. I wouldn't have to worry about anything else.
Do you have any like things about James, like playing with James, stories, anything that people would find interesting in terms of
that? I got a few, but he was just a great dude. Still is. He was a relentless worker, and he was really the dude that, you know, he'd be working out and you'd be leaving the gym. He's like, "Oh, you're done?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, like I'm tired." He was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Like, all right, we'll see if I pass you the ball in the game." And then you just like, "Damn, like I'm gonna go put my shoes back on," type thing. Like he was that guy. You know, he wanted people to stay in the gym with him, but at the same time, he never minded if you left. You know, I guess that was his way of trying to like probably keep us all together and keep us working. He was really about it. You know, there's very few. There's a lot of NBA people that I've grown up around, and I've been able to watch play from high school, even younger, all the way up until now, and they all have the same kind of foundation, whereas their work ethic is just far beyond even a very good player. There's just something different, and you can see in the way he plays today. He's a high IQ player. He's able to adapt. He doesn't care if he's 3 for 13. He still has 11 assists, 8 rebounds. Like that's just how he's always been, you know. And even in high school, our coaches used to get mad at him for not shooting enough. Like it's hard to tell now, but like Perry used to yell at him for not shooting the ball enough because he wanted to pass so much. He's like, "Nah, bro, like you're the guy. Like you need to shoot the ball." In high school, you know, I watched him play. We watched him play against everybody that was ranked above him. He beat them all. But did I think he was going to become NBA MVP? You know, gold medal winner. You know, Olympic medal winner, and everything else that's come with it. Maybe not in high school, but you know, if I ever see a kid like that again in high school, then at least now I know like that's the foundation, that's the bar, like that's what they look like at that age. And that's the type of determination and level of commitment that they have at that age to where I'm like, okay, like you have a chance. Great story about James. Everybody for their birthday, they want to have the big old party. They want to, you know, the cake and all that. Huge blowout. James's birthdays used to consist of us going to a gym, an indoor gym by his house, and we'd all play basketball. So DeMar DeRozan, Russ, me, everybody, Antonio Bigelow, everybody just in that gym playing basketball. Like, that's what we did for his birthday. That's what he wanted to do. And his mom would come by after like 2-3 hours, and we're freaking sweating and cussing each other out. We're all bloody and everything because we're scratching and hacking. And then pizza, cake, soda. And then we just take a break, go right back in. Nah, it was, he was different. I mean, but so was everybody else during that time. DeMar was different. The holidays were different. Landry was different. All these players, that I was blessed enough to like grow up around. Brandon Jennings was different. And then by the time I was a junior, senior, they're saying what's up to me now. And I thought that was starting to be the point where I okay, I think I can do this.
So how does that affect you now as a trainer, where you can look at younger kids coming up and kind of identify what you've seen from some of these bigger guys that have made it and done big things? Like, what kind of an edge does that give you as a trainer now when you're coaching up a bunch of youngsters on the rise?
You see the foundation. You're able to see the way a younger player moves, how he reacts, what he sees, what he's reading, and you're able to put it to another face that's already done it before. So, I have a kid right now who's a sophomore, 6'7", with a 44-inch vert. So I go, okay, DeMar. How did DeMar, I try to look back and think about how DeMar moved at that age, how he moved in college, how he moves now, and I go, okay. And I think that also helps. I think that also helps the young player understand maybe what their potential ceiling could be. If I tell a 16-year-old, hey, I see a little bit of DeMar DeRozan in you, they go, oh, really? And maybe that boosts their confidence up a little bit. Maybe that makes them want to work harder, but at the same time, I go, okay, but DeMar did this, 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 and this every day. So if you want to get like that, you have to do this. When I see a player like James, hey, James did this, 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 and this every day. You got to do this. Landry, the holidays, even I'm Clay. When I see a shooter, everybody wants to be as great of a shooter as Clay and Steph. And I didn't watch Steph, but Clay spent a lot of time with over the last 10, 12 years, right? I tell them, okay, Klay Thompson was really in a gym for 2 hours at a time just doing damn near form shooting. Just focusing on not being able to dip the ball. Just focusing on getting his stance right. Focusing on conditioning. People, you have to be in the greatest shape in order to be a great shooter. JJ Redick, Clay, Kyle Korver when he was younger, all still is. All in great shape. Great shooters are always in great shape. So this is what you got to do. So being able to tell a young player that, I think probably helps me and helps them. So the thing I try to do is tell the kids, this is where you got to live. You got to stay in this dungeon as much as possible. You can come up for air every now and then. And you can go outside, you can get your little fame every now and then, but you got to stay in the dungeon. And that's where you're going to really grow. And, that's what I try to instill in my kids. The people will find you. Social media is a double-edged sword, right? They will find you if you're good enough. You don't always have to promote yourself all the time. If NBA guys, the older NBA guys that are still in the league today, they never posted stuff. Kobe, everybody's idol. Kobe never posted anything. And I think a crazy story I had in college was when I was at Concordia in Irvine. Everybody knows, for the most part, that Kobe used to wake up at 4:30, 5 a.m. and go shoot and work out at UC Irvine. I thought it was folklore because you never see it. My friend, Pat Rembert, who was on that team, called me one day and was like, he's in there. And I was like, no way. He's like, I rebounded for him. I was like, no way. He was like, he wakes up at 4:30. And I was like, oh, Jesus. And I was like, we got to wake up at 4:30, 5 a.m. So Pat Rembert and I, even though we went to different schools, we were right down the street from each other, would text each other like, hey, you up? Like, yep, I'm up. And we'd get in our gyms at 5 a.m.